Hey y'all, my name is Kai, and I started my channel Better Out Than In, Real Talk with Kai, because I wanted to share my journey with my type 1 diabetes in the hopes that it helps someone who has diabetes, or maybe a parent who has a child with diabetes, or even if it's just someone who knows another person with diabetes, better understand what the person with diabetes may be going through. When I got diagnosed at 11, I had a really hard time trying to feel normal and trying to understand the disease. That um, it was like feeling as if I was on my own. And so I never have been the person to really be outward with what I'm going through or how I feel about my diabetes per se. And so I figured that if I share my journey, maybe it will help someone else feel more comfortable with their situation, and maybe, feel more comfortable about sharing what they may be experiencing or going through, so that they know that they're not alone. And so hopefully my journey will touch someone else and uh, be able to help them kind of make their way through their journey. Maybe a teenager who is having a hard time understanding all of it and just trying to deal with their emotions, because it takes a toll on you to not be understood in any situation, I think. So I wanted to just kind of be that voice, and hopefully people watch, like, share, subscribe to my channel, Better Out Than In, Real Talk with Kai. So thank you in advance for watching. Thank you for supporting. I appreciate any feedback, um, any comments. I'm open to any ideas that you think I should talk about. Please share with me. So thank you. And also just wanted to say, I'll be creating a Facebook soon to kind of just be about my diabetes and my YouTube channel. I've also put my Instagram already, so you guys can follow me on Instagram too. So all of this is new, so, kind of bear with me, but hopefully, you guys get some good info out of this. And just a disclaimer, everything and all my content on my channel are just my opinions, my experiences, my feelings about diabetes and about, the things that I'm going to talk about. So if you don't agree, that was okay. I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be. I don't claim to know all of the facts about everything that involve diabetes. Just the things that I've experienced and I've went through, and the things that I have researched and looked up, are the things I'm going to be sharing. So just have to put that out there, because sometimes people be like, oh, she don't know what she's talking about, or that's not real facts. Again, these are my opinions. If you don't agree, that's okay. These are my feelings, my experiences that I've experienced and went through, in the research that I've done, what I have gotten. So you can do your own research on type 1 diabetes. You can, talk to someone else who has diabetes, go to classes about diabetes. But, if you're watching my channel, these are just my experiences, my opinions, and my feelings. So I appreciate you guys, just listening to me. So when I first got diagnosed with diabetes, I was 11, which they call that juvenile diabetes. A lot of people think that you have to be born with diabetes to have type 1 diabetes, which is not the case. And a lot of people don't really know the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes. So type 1 diabetes is like juvenile diabetes. You're either born with it, you've gotten it at a young age. You can even get it in your young adulthood. But it's where your pancreas does not produce any insulin on its own. So your food that you eat generally turns into like energy, but the sugars break down into your blood and makes your glucose rise. With type 1 diabetes, and your pancreas is not able to produce the insulin to flush that out to kind of balance out the sugars in your blood, and that's why your blood sugars go high. And so type 1 is not reversible. However, type 2 diabetes is more so for people who are overweight, with poor diet or exercise, and maybe eating a lot of sodium or sugar, drinking a lot of sodas, those type of things, or just lack of exercise or a lot of stress as well, can cause type 2 diabetes, which is reversible by changing your eating habits, by exercising. A lot of times people with type 2 diabetes are told, oh, if you lose 15 to 20 pounds, your diabetes can go away. And also, they're not insulin dependent. They really only have to take a pill and just check their blood sugar to monitor it. But type 1, you have to, depend on insulin for every meal you eat, even snacks and, overnight. So it's a little more vigorous with type 1 versus type 2 diabetes. I've also heard a lot of people ask me, oh, do you have sugar or salt diabetes? And I'm like, what? Like, that is not a thing. It's not sugar or salt diabetes. That is not anything. That's just like a myth that old people used to talk about, I guess. That's not a thing. And type 1 diabetes is one of just diabetes in general actually, is one of the leading diseases in the United States. But it's also one of the most misunderstood diseases as well. Even people with diabetes don't always fully understand the disease themselves. So it's a lot of learning while going through it, and it can be very, very tedious to try to get it under control, especially for younger children or teenagers who have to go through it and take these medications every time they eat and still try to fit in and feel normal. So it can kind of be a lot for them. It's a little, I think as an adult, it's a little easier just because the mental state is a little more mature. So you can kind of understand what you need to do and why you're doing it. So when I was diagnosed as a kid, it was really hard for me to feel normal, for me to understand, like, why me? Why do I have to go through this? It was a point where I was like, I don't want to do this shit anymore. Like, I'm not going to do this. I don't have diabetes. I was like kind of in denial about even having it. When I got diagnosed, I was in a coma for 3 days, which they call diabetic coma, because my blood sugar was so high. But the whole time growing up, like, my doctors were always like, oh, she's so healthy. She plays all the sports. I was a little chubby, but it was like baby fat. Like, we didn't think anything of it. I ate, home cooked meals, but I also had my hot Cheetos and my Snickers and my Pepsis. Like any other kid, I tried to sneak stuff, but for the most part, like, my grandma and my mom cooked like pretty decent meals for us. So it wasn't really just that I had to eat bad stuff, but it was kind of like what I wanted, as a kid. But overall, I was pretty healthy. I did all the sports. I participated in like outdoor life camps and all type of things, hiking. And you think about it, I did it. So it was kind of took me back when I found out I had diabetes. And growing up, I know this probably sounds shady as hell, but growing up, I had a stepsister who was a little younger than me, but she was like hella big, like bigger than me. And I'm like, well, damn, she's fat as hell. Like, why the fuck she don't got it? So that was my thinking as a kid. Like, why the hell I have it and she's fat and eat all this shit and she don't got diabetes? Like, I was just kind of going through some things. So that's my thought process was, but that has nothing to do with diabetes. A person can be big or small and still have type 1 diabetes because it's the pancreas. A lot of doctors say that diabetes is an hereditary disease, which I believe that. I think that any disease can be hereditary because I think we all have some type of gene or DNA that, that carries those traits, but nobody in my family has diabetes. So I've come to the conclusion that I got diabetes by stress. The environment I grew up in, I'm not saying like it was like, oh, it was so bad, like I had to sleep on the floor and no water and no heat. No, not like that, but just as a child, I had to grow up a little faster than most my age at the time. I've seen things and, dealt with things that, kids at 11, 12 years old shouldn't have to go through. And so my environment, stress, and my eating habits, as I gotten older, and my mom started, working more, it was more of, okay, I'm on my way, pick you up, what do you want to eat, so I can pick it up and drop it off to you, because I gotta go back to work. And it's like, okay, cool, hell yeah, I want McDonald's, yeah, I want Jack in the Box, yeah, like, I'm not gonna turn that shit down, right? So I think those are the things: stress, my environment, and my eating habits is what developed diabetes for me, because like I said, nobody in my family has it. It could be true that if someone in your family may carry the trait of diabetes, that it may be hereditary. Some people are like, oh, my grandma has that. Like, isn't that an old people's thing? No. Anybody can be born with it. Anyone can develop diabetes. It's not just for old people. So yeah, and then also, I've heard people say, oh, do you have sugar or salt diabetes? And I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, that's not a thing. That's not a real thing. Sugar or salt diabetes is not a real thing. So I think about diabetes, and when growing up, I was so uneducated about the disease. I thought that it was only for old people for a long time too. And I've come to realize that it may be hereditary through people's families, but what is the most consistent thing that families pass on or may be hereditary would be eating habits. And so because of eating habits, I think diseases can be hereditary through the traditions that we carry on through our eating. And so nutrition is a big part of diabetes. So I'll talk about that in a later video. But I just want to mention that because that's kind of important. And yeah, so this is kind of what my channel will be about. It's just kind of giving info about like things I experienced with diabetes. I'll be sharing stories about, what I went through with certain things with diabetes, at certain different times of my life with diabetes. And ultimately, it's ended up with me having to do dialysis, which a lot of people are like, what the hell, you're hella young, you shouldn't be on dialysis. But when you don't control diabetes, things happen way before they should. And so that's also a big part of why I wanted to share this journey with you all, so that I can put out how important it is for us to take care of our bodies, especially minorities. A lot of us already have very bad traits and very bad tendencies and traditions passed on to us as far as eating and just taking care of ourselves in general, that we never look at the long haul or the big picture. We always look at the now. But the way we take care of our bodies now are what our bodies will be in years, So it's like, treat your body right now for the older you. And so that's kind of also what I will be sharing in later videos. So again, if you guys have any, comments, any feedback, anything you want me to talk about as far as diabetes or questions about diabetes, I might be already going to share it in another video, but feel free to put it down or ask, and I'll definitely get to it. So thank you again for watching. I'll get better at this. It's my first video, and just keep hanging in there with me and watching, liking, subscribing, and following. Thank you so much, you guys. Many blessings.